Hello there, everyone. Today, the DuelLogs, will be looking at Commander format cards from Magic the Gathering, which I've heard is a pretty casual format, and trying to see if they're good or not. Today we have PumkinSwift with me again.
Hi everyone, I'm back.
Yeah, everybody's favorite MTG expert. Commander format, for those of you who don't know, is like a casual format. The difference is like you have like one card who's like your hero power, essentially. And you have a 100-card deck with only one copy of each card in it. And there's some other rules, but it seemed pretty fun, actually. Do you have any experience in Commander format, PumkinSwift?
Yeah, I end up playing Commander more than most other formats just because it's pretty easily the most popular Magic format because you can just build a deck for like anywhere between like $50 to $500. A lot of my decks are like $200 to $500, and it just stays good forever because it doesn't really rotate very much. It's a pretty stable format, and it being multiplayer and it being such a big card pool means that and it being so casual makes it so that you don't have to upgrade your decks very much. So for that reason, it stayed very popular because people will just build a Commander deck once and be able to play it forever.
All right, let's get into this. So first up, we have Altar of Dementia. It is an artifact creature which costs 2 of any mana. Artifacts, those are like continuous spells, right?
Yes.
So, sacrifice a creature. Target player puts a number of cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power from the top of the library into the graveyard. Oh. You can just use this effect whenever?
Yes. The cost is sacrificing a creature. Anything before the colon is a cost. So sacrifice a creature is the cost for the effect of milling somebody.
That seems really good. There's no cost to it. You just have to sacrifice your creatures. So if you just get like a whole bunch of tokens. Tokens probably don't cost a lot, do they?
They're statted about as much as other creatures, basically, with, the difference between being on multiple bodies versus on one body is it's hard to say which one is better. It depends on the situation, so.
Is it spell speed 2 or like spell speed 1?
All activated abilities, which is anything with like a colon in it on a card, are spell speed 2 and not once per turn. Unless the effect text says otherwise. Some will say only activate as a sorcery, or this triggers only once each turn.
If your opponent tries to destroy one of your cards, you can just sack it in order to mill some cards, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I would say this is a good card then. This is excellent, because you get to mill cards from your deck. Although Commander, I don't know how well mill would probably work in a 1-card, 100-card deck. Maybe it's not that good. I'll change my mind. I'll probably say it's probably not very good in Commander. What's the consensus?
This card is extremely good. There are slightly better cards with a similar effect, ones that make mana instead of milling, and those are like a little bit better. But there's a joke in Magic that you can have a 0 mana artifact that allows you to sacrifice a creature for no effect, and it would be good just because the utility of being able to. Yeah, because we have tons of things that not only have death triggers, but also will trigger when other creatures die, right? And so the ability to choose to put a card from the field to the graveyard when you want to is extremely powerful. Not only that, but being able to mill yourself. There are tons of legendary creatures that care about the graveyard. There are tons of graveyard shenanigans. It's like a common theme in Magic. So it's not sure, it's a singleton format, but if you just build your deck around wanting cards in the graveyard and have a bunch of different effects that care about that, the mill becomes powerful. And another side benefit of this is there are cards that can make it hard to attack, or sometimes trying to go to the battle phase is or going to combat to try and kill somebody with your creatures and all their power can be bad and not work out. But let's say you have enough power to kill somebody and you go to attack them and they play some sort of instant speed board wipe. You can just sacrifically reduce the Altar of Dementia, and if you have enough power, you can just deck them, right? You have to have 100 power, but you can with some crazy combos you can't do that. I've seen that happen.
Also, it's colorless artifact, so it can go into any deck. Oh.
Yeah, very easy to cast as well.
Okay, so I was off base on this one. I just assumed with 100 cards, and I didn't know there was that many cards which could benefit from this. Next up, we have Falling Star. Costs 3 mana, sorcery. Someone sent this in on Twitter. Flip star onto the player's area from a height of at least 1 foot. Star must turn at least 360 degrees or it has no effect. When Falling Star lands, Falling Star deals 3 damage to each creature that it touches. Any creature damaged by falling stars that are not destroyed become tapped. So you have to throw this card into your opponent's things, but it has to spin at least once in the air.
It has to go at least 1 foot up.
And 1 foot up. Oh, wow. So you actually have to like throw it into the air and it has to spin. So this requires some manual dexterity in order to get the effect off. But for 3 mana, it only does 3 damage to the creature. Like, chances are you're going to hit 1 creature with this. That doesn't seem very good for like all the effort that requires to play it. It's probably not a good card, right? But it's probably banned because of how you use it. If it's not a joke card. I'm assuming this isn't a joke card, but...
This was before they started banning these effects from actual Magic for, like, not being accessible to people who aren't, fully abled. Maybe you lost a finger in an accident or something.
Yeah, disabled.
Yeah, so they just don't print these. So this card is banned in every format, just like Chaos Orb and all the other old, like, dexterity cards for not being, like, what they want in the game. It's also bad. For the record.
Yeah. It didn't seem very good for all the effort to do it.
Like,
mana.
3 mana to deal 3 damage to each creature is an effect that exists. You can deal 3 damage. You can pay 3 mana to deal 3 damage to target creature if you want. There is no real upside to this card. And it's a sorcery. Like, it's just terrible.
Yeah, that's funny. Falls off the table. Next up, we have Urza, Lord High Artificer. Legendary creature. He's only blue mana, though. So if you play this as your commander, you can only use blue mana. So when Urza, Lord High Artificer, enters the battlefield, create a 0/0 colorless construct artifact token with this creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. Tap an untapped artifact you control, add a blue mana. Oh. And pay 5, shuffle your library, then exile the top card. Until the end of your turn, you may play that card without paying its mana cost. So if you have a way to just cheat out artifacts in the field, you can just gain a whole bunch of mana. This is probably a good card.
This card was a mistake. It's so good. It's ramp and card draw because you can activate that bottom ability as many times as you want to like just start drawing cards. So if you can just vomit a bunch of artifacts onto the field. There are tons of really good cheap artifacts that cost like 1 mana or 0 mana in some cases. So you just like play a bunch of those, play this, tap it, start exiling cards until you find your win condition. There's so many tricks with this. There are lots of old cards that are artifacts that when they're tapped, their effects are off. So you can there's some of these cards that are like Stacks effects that are like Floodgate effects. So you play it and it has effects where as long as it's untapped, it's like Stacks effect is active. Then you pass to your opponent. All 3 of your opponents have to deal with it. You tap it before your turn and on your turn, and then you don't have to deal with its negative effect. Winter Orb is a really strong one, and like this combos really well with that. This is like a nightmare of a card to play against.
Next up, we have Asmoranomardicadaistinaculdacar. Is that how you say it?
I have no idea. I just call her Asmoran.
Asmoran. So, legendary creature. She doesn't have a mana cost.
Yeah.
As long as you've discarded a card this turn, you may pay these 2 to cast the spell.
I was going to say that's a hybrid mana, which means either a black or a red. So it's not 2 mana, it's 1 mana. Okay, yeah. I just wanted to make sure.
Okay, so when Amaranth enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a card named the Underworld Cookbook. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Sacrifice 2 foods. Target creature deals 6 damage to itself.
I went ahead and sent you the Underworld Cookbook so that you can, because they're basically both halves of one card, so I think you need to see it in order to evaluate this card.
Oh, discard a card, create a food token. It's an artifact with 2 mana, tap, sacrifices artifact, you gain 3 life. Create a food token, and it taps the card. So you can do that once per turn, and then 4+ tap, sacrifice the Underworld Cookbook, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Oh, okay, so you bring out the cookbook, cost 1 mana to play, and then you have to tap it and you get a food out. And then you can sacrifice 2 food to deal, target creature deals 6 damage to itself. How does a creature deal damage to itself?
It just does. It deals 6 damage to itself.
So, like, if it has an effect that destroys cards, would it trigger if it destroys itself through this effect?
Yes. Death Touch creatures will always kill themselves, even though they have more toughness. If you have a lifelink creature, they will gain 6 life off of it. Yeah. It's the source of the damage, so the effects still apply.
Okay, that's weird. How do you bring this card out? What's its mana cost?
It has no mana cost, and you can't cast it. You have to cast it for the black-red hybrid cost that you can only do if you've discarded a card this turn. There are some spells in Magic that just don't have a mana cost. It's weird. They always have some other way to cheat them out.
Gotcha. Okay. So this card is weird.
Yeah.
If it was used as a commander, I don't know. This seems mediocre. I can't see too much problems with it. This is probably sent in because of its name.
Yeah. This card's all right. It's not the best commander. It's basically like if you're in some weird, if you build around it, you can obviously get enough foods to be able to kill stuff with it. You can also make the discarding inherent to both halves of the card, not too big of a downside, but it's not a very proactive commander, which makes it a lot worse. A 3/3 isn't a big body. This saw a little bit of play at, I think, like some 60 card actual competitive formats where it was okay, but it wasn't ever great. And it's better in those formats than it is in Commander, because having like a 1-mana 3/3 is relevant in a format where you only have 20 life. The removal is more relevant too, because people are going to care more about their creatures than they would in Commander. So this is really worse Commander card than it is in most Magic formats.
Oh, okay. To help pronounce is Asmoranomardicadaistinaculdacar. Why is her name so long?
They put that character's card name as a joke in flavor text one time, and then they decided to bring it back as a reference for anybody who got it. So it is a joke card, but it's a playable card. It's not an unset card.
The next one, we have Gamble. Cost 1 mana, sorcery, search your library for a card. Put that card into your hand. Discard a card at random, then shuffle your library. Okay, I get what the gamble is. So you search out any card you want, and then there's a gamble, the chance that it will be discarded. I'd say this card's really good. Holy crap.
Yeah, this card's very good. It's 1 mana, which is like the cheapest amount you can
it's only 1 mana.
Yeah, a 1 mana tutor is very good. This is also off color for tutoring. Red doesn't get tutors. Like black is the only color that gets tutors for anything. Blue can search for artifacts, instants, and sorceries. Green can search for like creatures and lands. White can search for artifacts and enchantments. Red basically doesn't get to search for anything. So the fact that this is a red tutor, so it can go in like mono red decks, is pretty crazy. It makes it a lot more valuable. It's also one of the better tutors. It's the cheapest one that just lets you search for anything and give you access to it immediately. You do have to gamble, and sometimes you will lose because you lose the gamble. But you're playing this on like very early. You probably have other cards in your hand. A lot of the time, like let's say you have like 4 cards in your hand when you cast this, and you want to not discard the card you tutor or one other card in your hand. That means you have a 50-50 chance of getting what you want, and a lot of the time, gambling for the card will let you win there, right? So the math on this is often worth it. So this is very, very good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I bet this would be super good in my Bone Tower meal deck.
I'd imagine this card would be pretty great in Yu-Gi-Oh! Too.
Yeah, I was playing like this deck the other day, where all the deck was trying to do was get 2 specific cards in the grave, and also search out a specific card, and this would be so good in that.
Just kind of wondering if Gamble would be a printable card in Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, would it be too good? It'd probably need a once per turn and everything, but like...
If they printed this in Yu-Gi-Oh! It would probably be like, banish 7 cards from your extra deck face down at random, then search a card. You can't draw any other cards to the rest of this turn, and also this card would be banned because it'd still be too good.
Oh, wow.
Next up, we have Hex. 6 mana, destroy 6 target creatures. Damn. 6 destructions? That seems 6 mana. No, that's good. That's 1 mana per creature. This is a good card, isn't it?
It's awful. The problem with this card... The problem with this card is that it says destroy 6 target creatures and not destroy up to 6 target creatures. So you have to have 6 targets for it, or you can't use it. And if some of those 6 targets are your own creatures, you have to blow up your own creatures. This would maybe be playable. It probably wouldn't be as good as like the 4 mana wraths in the format if if it were that. But the fact that you have to target the 6 creatures makes this unplayably bad because it's just too clunky. It just doesn't have the targets you need to be able to cast it.
In Commander, with like 4 people playing, there's no way there's not going to be 6 creatures to pop.
I mean, this is one of those cards that's gone worse. Like, people have just slowly been building better and better Commander decks, and so it's getting to the point where a lot of times people only have like 1 or 2 really strong creatures on the field and like nothing else. And especially if you have like a more spell slingery person at the table who like maybe hasn't even played their Commander because they don't need to. Like, there's a good chance that they just don't have any creatures out, and like... A lot of the time, this just won't do anything. And a lot of the times, people are swarming the board. They're playing like 10, 12 creatures and like spamming tokens. Like, destroying 6 of their dudes doesn't really do too much, you know?
Yeah. Someone said it's like the double Book of Moon card. I was like, okay, that makes sense. Double Book of Moon sucks. Okay, so next up we have a Planeswalker. Ooh, Narset, Parter of Veils. Costs 3 mana. Each opponent can't draw more than 1 card each turn. Oh, that seems good. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a non-creature, non-land card from amongst them and put it into your hand. Put the rest in the bottom of your deck in any random order. And put it into your hand. -2. It doesn't have a way to gain any renown. Can this even be used in Commander? Because it doesn't say that it can.
Oh no, you can. This can't be your commander, but you are allowed to just run legendary creatures or legendary planeswalkers in your 99 cards.
Okay.
This can only be in your normal deck, but it cannot be your commander.
Well, it seems good for the Floodgate effect. I'm gonna say it's probably a good card.
Both effects of this are extremely good. So the way this is played is basically, I forget what it's called, but you know, there's a card in Yu-Gi-Oh that's like each player discards their hand and draws that many cards or something.
Mm-hmm.
There are versions of that in Magic.
Card destruction.
Yeah, there are versions of that in Magic called wheel effects that say like each player discards their hand and then draws 7 cards. So it can actually get you card advantage, and those cards are extremely good. So this was played. I think I remember someone talking about how Joel and Lockbird used to see play with card destruction. I think it was as a sort of combo. This sort of sees play
reincarnation. It's basically the same thing, but only for your opponent's hand.
This sees play like that, except both halves of the combo are just good cards anyway. Because you want to play Wheel of Fortune and your other like wheel effects, and you want to play Narset Potter of Veils because it's a floodgate or a stacks or a floodgate effect that also finds you other cards from your deck to play. So like both, the ability to just like that's card advantage, right? That's a +1 over a couple of turns.
Yeah. So with this effect, if it's on the field, can you just play a wheel card in order to get rid of your opponent's hand and only give him 1?
Yes.
And you don't have to do anything special. You just play it in sequence.
Yeah, you play this and then you cast the wheel effect. You have to have the mana to do so.
Because in order to do the Trickstar combo, you need to like take advantage of game rulings in order to do it, because you're not allowed to just activate Troll and then get rid of your opponent's hand and they can't draw anything.
No.
Because you can't resolve in a card. Like, you're not allowed to use a card in Yu-Gi-Oh! If the effect can't resolve. So you have to, like, get around it. So this one, I guess technically, it wouldn't resolve because they can only draw 1 card.
No, as a Magic judge, watching some of that stuff and, like, Distant Coder do rulings, I've started watching him now. Like, it's so weird. Like, it's not the same at all. Like, in Magic, if a card effect can't resolve, you just resolve as much of it as you can, basically.
What? Someone said you can even fail to find a card?
Yes. No, if you...
What? You can't do that in Yu-Gi-Oh!
It's very specific. If you have a card like Demonic Tutor, which searches any card, and you have cards in your library, you cannot fail to find, because there is a card in your deck that you can put into your hand. If it searches for specific cards, for example, Gifts Ungiven, there's no way to prove that you have 4 cards with different names. So you can fail to find as many cards in your deck as long as you find at least 1, because we don't know if you have 4 cards with different names in your deck.
Yeah, like in Yu-Gi-Oh! You wouldn't be able to play that if you couldn't resolve it. There is a card which has the effect where you like search out a card from your deck. Oh, wait, no, that's a bad example. There's a Crop Circles, that's a better one, where you have to search specific types of alien monsters from your deck, but if you fail to find a target, you take 2,000 points of damage. However, you can't activate that card unless you have a target in your deck in the first place.
Yeah.
So the failing to find penalty only applies as if it leaves the field. Like, you lose targets after you've activated the effect of the card already.
If you were to play a card that fought the Uncage the Menagerie card, and you only had 1 card that cost 7 mana, let's say, and it was like, go find 7. It's like, no, you could just go find the 1 card and not find the other 6.
That's so weird. You can't do that in Yu-Gi-Oh! That's cheating. Next up, we have the Gitrog monster. So 5 mana. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice the Gitrog monster unless you sacrifice a land. What? You may play an additional land on each of your turns? Oh, okay. Whenever one or more of your land cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere, draw a card. What does Death Touch mean?
It's poisonous. Any amount of damage destroys a creature.
Gotcha, I know what that means. Okay, so you get to play an additional land each turn. You get to draw a card each time a land goes to the graveyard, and you have to sacrifice a land to keep it on the field. I'm going to say this is probably a good card, because 2 lands is good, drawing cards is good, the upkeep is annoying, but it pays for itself by being able to play more land anyway. This is probably a good card.
This card is actually busted, and it's because it's basically a 1-card combo. So this is another place where the weird rulings things matter. So let's say you have 8 cards at the end of your turn, right? You have to discard down to hand size. You discard a land card. So the game will say, oh, you discarded a land card, that's going to trigger the ability. Draw a card. So you're gonna so it's gonna resolve on your turn.
Oh, that's not once per turn. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, it's not once per turn. So it's gonna not once per turn. You're gonna draw a card, and then so you already went through the cleanup step of your end phase, right? And so
Yeah.
but now but since a thing was on the stack and resolved, we're gonna like, okay, wait. We have to recheck the cleanup step to make sure everything's still all right. It's like, oh, you have 8 cards in your hand. Discard a card. You discard another land card. You draw a card, right? There's and you remember dredge? There's a land with dredge. So if you find that, you can just dredge it back and make sure you always draw a land card off the top to be able to draw your whole deck and deck yourself and then win instantly. So this basically is a card that can combo from your command zone with just having 8 cards in your hand.
Yeah, I completely missed the non-once per turn on that.
It's weird for things to have a once per turn on it, so we're always like
Yu-Gi-Oh,
looking for.
That's normal. So I just always assume they all have once per turns on it, and then you really realize like, hey, this isn't once per turn. It's like, what? Why? Okay, so we're gonna end it here. Thank you, PumkinSwift, and the people who sent in cards. Everyone, check out PumkinSwift's YouTube channel. Link in the video description. It's a game theory.